My girlfriend told me that if I left her, she would not survive it. For almost 2 years, that sentence kept me in a relationship I had already stopped recognizing. I'm 27. My girlfriend Elise is 25. We met 3 years ago through mutual friends. At the beginning, she was funny, affectionate, and intense in a way that made me feel chosen. She remembered small things. She knew when I had a bad day before I said anything. She would leave notes in my lunch bag. She made me feel appreciated in a way I had not experienced before. Elise also struggled with anxiety. She had trouble being alone. Crowded places overwhelmed her. She had periods where she barely slept. I knew that early. I did not see it as a problem. I thought relationships meant helping each other through difficult things. So I helped. At first, that meant answering late-night calls, driving over when she was panicking, sitting quietly beside her until she calmed down, taking her to appointments when she did not feel able to go alone. She always thanked me. Then she would immediately say, "You didn't have to do that." But if I agreed that I did not have to, she looked hurt. So I learned to say, "I wanted to." Most of the time I did. The problem was that support slowly became responsibility. If Elise had a bad night, I stayed awake. If she skipped work, I called in sick too because she said she could not be alone. If I made plans with friends, she would become quiet the day before. Then she would say she was fine. Then she would text me during the entire evening. Eventually, I stopped making plans. I did not notice how small my life had become until my friend Marcus asked why he never saw me anymore. I said Elise was going through a difficult period. He said, "She has been going through a difficult period for 2 years. I got defensive. I said he did not understand. He said, "Maybe, but I remember when you had hobbies." That bothered me because it was true. I used to run. I used to play guitar. I used to spend Sundays at my brother's house. Now most of my free time was spent managing the emotional weather in our apartment. Elise was not cruel all the time. That is important. She could be thoughtful. She would cook my favorite meal after a fight. She would fold my laundry without asking. She noticed when I was tired. But whenever she felt rejected, something changed. She would insult me, call me cold, selfish, useless. Then later, she would apologize and say she had panicked. The first time she threatened to hurt herself, we had been arguing about sex. I was exhausted. I said I was not in the mood. She asked if I still found her attractive. I said yes. She kept asking. I kept answering. Eventually I said, "I need you to stop turning every no into proof that I do not love you." She started crying. Then she said, "If you don't want me, there is no point in me being here." I asked what that meant. She said, "You know what it means." I panicked. I apologized. We had sex. I told myself I had calmed her down. I did not call it coercion. I called it a crisis. That was easier to live with. After that, the threat appeared whenever I tried to set a serious boundary. If I asked for space, she said she might do something stupid. If I suggested counseling, she said counseling meant I had already decided to leave. If I said the relationship was hurting me, she said, "So now I'm ruining your life too." I started choosing every word carefully, not because I wanted to be kind, because I was afraid. Then something happened that changed how I saw her. We had argued about a security camera I installed near the front door. Our building had package thefts. I wanted a camera. Elise hated the idea. She said it made her feel watched. I said it only faced the hallway. She said I should have asked first. She was right about that. I apologized. The next morning, she made me coffee. That was unusual after a fight. I picked up the mug and saw something floating on top. At first, I thought it was milk. Then I realized what it was. She had spit into it. I asked her directly. She denied it. Then she said, "If I did, you know why." That sentence was worse than the act. Not because the act was small. It was disgusting. But the sentence meant she believed hurting me could be justified if she felt hurt first. I told her she needed to leave. She stared at me. Then she said, "You know I have nowhere to go." She had no nearby family. Her closest friend lived 4 hours away. She had only just started a new job after months of unemployment. I had paid most of our expenses. The apartment was in my name. I wanted her gone. I also could not put her on the street. That was the dilemma, not whether I still loved her, whether ending the relationship made me responsible for what happened next. I moved her things into the guest room. She came into my room that night and said she was afraid to sleep alone. I told her no. She sat on the floor outside the door for almost an hour. I could hear her crying. I did not open it. That was the first boundary I kept. The next day, she made dinner. I could not eat it. I stared at the plate and thought about the coffee. She noticed. She said, "You really think I would poison you?" I said, "I did not think you would spit in my drink either." She said I was humiliating her. I said, "You made food feel unsafe." She said, "It was one stupid thing." I said, "One stupid thing can change what someone trusts." She started crying. Then she said, "If you make me leave, I don't know what I'll do." This time I did not apologize. I asked, "Are you saying you will hurt yourself?" She said, "Maybe." I told her I was calling for help. She immediately said no. I said, "If you threaten your life, I am going to treat it like an emergency." She got angry. She said I was using the system against her. I said, "No, I am refusing to be the only person responsible for keeping you alive." That was the turning point. For the first time, I understood that staying was not saving her. It was teaching both of us that threats worked. I called her older sister. They had not spoken in months. I told her enough to explain the situation. Her sister was angry with Elise, then angry with me for waiting so long, but she agreed to come. Elise begged me not to involve her. She said her sister would judge her. I said, "I cannot carry this alone anymore." She said, "You promised you would always be there." I said, "I can care about you without being trapped by you." She called that abandonment. Maybe part of it was, I was leaving, but I had reached the point where every act of compassion was being used as evidence that I had to stay forever. Update 1. Her sister arrived the next afternoon. Elise would not pack at first. Then her sister said, "You can be angry at him later. Right now, you are coming with me." Elise looked at me like I had betrayed her. I felt like I had. I also felt relief. Both feelings were true. Update 2. For the first week, Elise sent long messages. Some apologized. Some blamed me. Some said she understood. Some said I had ruined her life. When she threatened to hurt herself again, I called emergency services and sent her sister the message. Elise later told me that was cruel. I told her, "I will always take that threat seriously, but I will not respond by coming back." Update 3. I changed the locks. I threw away the mug. I still cannot drink coffee someone else makes without looking at it first. That sounds dramatic. Maybe it is. Trust can break in strangely specific places. Marcus came over last weekend. We ordered food. He brought my old guitar from his apartment because I had left it there months ago. I had forgotten. We sat in the living room and played badly for an hour. I felt guilty for enjoying it. Then I realized guilt had become my default response to peace. I do not think Elise is a monster. I think she is scared. I think she learned that desperation gets attention. I think she genuinely believed that losing me would destroy her. I also think she used that fear to control me. Those things can all be true. I am not responsible for proving my love by surrendering my right to leave, and compassion does not require me to remain available for abuse. Maybe I should have left sooner. Maybe I should have involved her family the first time she threatened herself. Maybe staying made everything worse. But I know this now. If someone says they will die without you, the answer cannot be to give them your entire life, because eventually neither person is really living.